I guess today, instead of having a 2-hour speech, which was going to be a little bit ridiculous, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but I want to hear from you what you want to hear about today. So before we get started, let's just go through the room real quick, because we have an ability to speak to each one of you and what your thoughts, concerns, questions, expectations, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right, what's the age of your house?
The house is 50 years old.
50 years old?
I'm not sure about the basement.
Okay.
But the basement, when I live it up, it's when I watch your YouTube channel.
Yep.
They're missing insulation.
Okay.
So I have
Insulation. You want to know all about insulation?
insulation.
Before we go to insulation, though, I need to know: do you have a like block foundation, or is it poured concrete?
A block.
Block foundation. Okay, that helps. And how about you? I'm sorry, we haven't met.
This is Sarah.
Sarah, nice to meet you, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm a designer working at our premium kitchen.
Okay.
So we do custom kitchens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so,
And I just,
you want to learn about YouTube, or did you want to learn about?
no, just because I'm more on the design side.
Yes.
So just wanted to get more knowledge.
Yes, about what a man thinks about design. Right. Yeah, I've got some experience I can share for sure. And for yourself, sir? Anything in particular you're hoping to learn?
We should know what's your experience on the renovation market.
Sure.
How do you feel? How you predict it for the next coming 3 years?
How I see the renovation market
Yes.
looking in Ottawa, and in Ontario, Toronto specifically?
Yes.
Okay, yeah? Okay. So let me just start off. I'll just tell you a little bit about my story. Okay? It's not all that exciting. I got into the trades because I used to flip houses with my family. So when I was young, I have 2 brothers, and we used to buy and sell a house every 12 months in one day, because back then, you got to keep all the money and don't pay any tax. That was lovely. Those days are over. Pardon?
It's the same, no?
It is, but there's limits. Back in those days, you could make as much as you wanted. And so it was a lot of fun. My grandpa was a carpenter, so my father learned a lot of his skills. He never got into the trades, but he had that experience and he had the ability to draw from that relationship. And I'm talking early 80s. Wow. Back then, a lot of guys had experience with using tools and working with their hands. Okay? So if you didn't know something, you had a neighbor that knew something. Those days are gone too. Okay?
There's YouTube now.
There's YouTube, yay. Hallelujah, right? YouTube. Anyway, so I got in the business working with paint and drywall and then flooring. I did new home construction contract work with tile. And most of the trades that you work in, it's exhausting, right? It's all day long. It's every day. It's blood, sweat, and tears. You wear your hard hat and your safety shoes and your glasses, and as soon as you close the door, it all comes off because you're too busy working to be safe. So that's why I don't do it anymore either. I'm a safety second, make a living first kind of guy. I don't want to be safe and broke. I'd rather get the odd minor nick. I have electrical tape for when I cut myself. That's my Band-Aid. About 10 years ago, I was running a custom bathroom renovation company, and one of my daughter's friends graduated from film school, and he got into the world where he was making videos and shooting weddings and that sort of thing, right? And just trying to become a videographer. So I invited him to come out, and we did a couple of project videos just for my website, nice and simple. And he told me, wow, that went really well. You're very good at this. I said, good at what? He goes, talking. And I said, okay. And he says, you know, we could probably do something here. And I said, well, I'm making a living making bathrooms, but we'll shoot more of these bathroom videos. And so we did. And he started to invoice me for the work that he was doing, and he was way too cheap. And I told him one day, I said, you have to charge me more money for your services because you're in business. And he said, no, I'm just building my resume. I don't want to do that. And I opened my big mouth like I usually do, and I offered to help him out with his movie that he wanted to make. The next thing you know, I'm spending every afternoon for the whole summer and the fall helping him make his movie. And next thing you know, we're just hanging out and spending way too much time together. And I came to him one day because he had a friend, and this is the YouTube question, And this friend of his was a retired wrestler, right? You know what I mean by WWF wrestling, right? Lots of sweat and grunts and throwing people around. And this guy had a YouTube channel and he was making a living interviewing old retired wrestlers, right? And I'm thinking, okay, so I took a look at YouTube and I was looking for help to do projects and DIY information, and we couldn't find any. And so I went to my videographer friend and I said, what do you think about doing a YouTube channel? And he didn't even hesitate. He said, let's do it. And so for 2 years, every time I was on a project and we could get a homeowner to sign off that we'd be allowed to film, we would go into their house and we'd film their projects. So whenever he was available, he would come by and film. And it was a little frustrating because he was never there when I needed him for all the good stuff. And the channel was growing and it was going well. So this last December, I shut down my construction company and he shut down his videography company. And now this is all we do. It's like any business. It wasn't a good idea at the time, but we're looking to the future thinking it will be. And so 6 months later, we're pleased. It's still growing, and there we have it. That's how I got into YouTube. Just a guy with 3 years.
3 years.
3 years, yes. Most people in the YouTube market, if we're going to address your question, don't have the kind of success that we've had. It really is specific to, you need someone who doesn't ever shut up to be on camera. You need to have really good content, good video editing. You have to be consistent. You have to put out a video every week. You can't cheat and miss that, okay? There's a lot of rules in the back behind the analytics of how YouTube operates. So if you want to do it, you've really got to commit for a long term. Overnight success doesn't happen. It's not the rule, it's the exception, right? And at the same time, I'll talk about looking forward into the business of YouTube. I would say in 2 years from now, if you don't have a YouTube channel, you might not exist on the internet. That's the downside, right? So if you don't have a presence in YouTube, 2 years from now, whenever you Google anything, the first thing that Google's going to show is going to be YouTube answers. Because Google gets paid when you watch a YouTube video. They don't get paid for giving out free information. So if you're in business and you're looking for down the road for designing, there are hardly any designers on YouTube in the world, okay? Successful designers do magazines, TV shows, right? Cityline. They're not on YouTube. 2 years from now, if you were the only one doing it, the whole world would see your face every time they wanted to find out about designing. They wouldn't be finding vlogs or blogs or watching TV because the world is changing. And so we have a young generation that's getting older and absorbing more content of grown-up content, which is what I like to call myself. And you have more and more different age group demographics starting to watch YouTube as more and more people are making content that's relevant, right? Not just pranks and silly cat videos and stuff. So
what's actually your audience?
My audience demographic?
Yeah, demographic.
Yeah, I can share that. Majority of my audience is 25 to 45, okay? Homeowners. And after that, it's 45 to 55, 55 to 65. Yeah, so it's very grown up. And we do get the occasional 14 or 15-year-old getting excited that they learned how to paint and they want to paint their bedroom, which is fun. Because in 10 years from now, they'll be homeowners and, hopefully I'll still be alive. So that'll be good.
Yours mostly Canada or US?
No, actually, our market is interesting. If you take a look at the population of English-speaking geography of the world, we have the same percentage in every country relative to their population size. So our biggest market, of course, is the United States, because it's the largest English-speaking country in the world. Second is Canada, then England, then Australia, and then Germany and Norway. Yeah, and so that's interesting. I didn't realize so many people in Norway spoke English, but that's good. That's good for us, I guess, eh? Now, in YouTube, we are trying our best to make videos that will assist people who are going to renovate something in their house with or without help. Okay? You bought a house, right? You find out it's really cold. You need insulation. So one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to go down to the hardware store and try to find somebody in an orange apron and say, what do I do with my house? And he's going to say, insulation's in aisle 49. That doesn't help you, right? The hardware stores in the retail world are not trained on construction technology anymore. All right? 15, 20 years ago, they had a lot of retired trade professionals, but now they don't. Okay? So getting specific help there can be difficult. So now you got to go to YouTube, right? Because there's not a whole lot of other resource out there. There's lots of TV shows where they'll do insulation, but they don't tell you the how, what, why, and where to buy it. They don't tell you what the code is, how thick it needs to be, how to install it, right? They don't tell you anything. They just show, we need insulation over here, and boom, next thing you know, finished kitchen. So that's where we come in, we fill the gaps. We try to teach everybody all the little steps. We found that by doing that, we develop an audience that have confidence that if they have a question, they come to us first, which is very strange because it's lovely that they come, but at the same time, it's a lot of responsibility. Because I've only made 240 videos, I think, right? Yeah, but we could make thousands, and we're gonna, but we can only make one a week, give or take, right? So if you have a specific question and I don't have the video on it, what do?
People will ask you.
Right? So I get lots of questions. Now, I don't have time to answer all the questions. I used to, the first and second year, no problem. I answered every question. I was excited. It's like, I'm in the video, ask me all your questions, right? And then before you know it, we realized, wow, these videos from 3 years ago are still doing lots of views. So I'm getting hundreds of questions a day. And I'm typing like a madman with my 2 fingers, because I only use 2 fingers. And I can only keep up so much. So we decided that we would change the way we do things. So now we do memberships on the channel, and this gives people access. I guarantee if you're a member, I'm going to answer your questions. We try our best.
You do answer my questions.
Yes. Okay. We do have a member in the audience today. And the world is full of hiccups, and so now we have a team helping out, which is awesome. And with answering questions, we do live shows, and so you can ask your question on the live show in the chat, and I usually have some paper I can sketch or draw, or you can send us in your pictures of your project, and we can pull it up on the TV behind me, and we can help educate and all that sort of thing, right? So if you're getting into a real massive project, memberships is only $500 a month. Just joking, it's 5. It's just 5, all right? It's just quick and simple. It's just it's a way that if members can do $5 a month, they can help support all of the extra time that goes into doing that, right? We don't need to get rich off anybody's membership. It's not our goal. Our goal is just become the biggest, best YouTube channel on the planet. That's easy, right? Let's talk about basement renovations. Why not? We're here, all right? Q&A, just from a man. You have a block foundation house, right? Which means you don't have any waterproofing on the outside of the house, right? Okay, so how is your ground? Does it start at the house and always move away from the house? Or is it very flat, or does it move towards the house?
I think towards the house.
Towards the house, okay.
On the front, it's towards the house, and then on the side, on
Yep.
the east and west, for example, east and north, on the 2 sides are garage.
Okay.
And then the back, there's a backyard with a deck.
So in the back, it comes towards the house, okay.
My concern is now on the front yard, exterior wall.
Yes,
And then lately, I got a moist watermark.
yep.
So I just ripped it out and found out that's
Okay, so before you renovate your house or worry about insulation, you got to worry about water, okay? So you have a couple of choices. You can excavate around your building, and you can waterproof, and you can make sure that your drainage at the base of your foundation is in good shape. That's very, very expensive. It's more expensive to do it if you have a deck and landscaping, right? If your basement is empty, you can waterproof from the inside, okay? It's also expensive. Or you can do the third option, which is put extra dirt at your house and make sure the water pushes away. All right? So if you were to have the rain fall down and the water's going away from your house, that's most of the job right there. all right? You want to move water away from the house. That's all you really need to do, okay? That's most of the job. Okay, so a house that was built in your time period would have been built with all the dirt moving the water away from the house, all right? And then over time, sometimes, it just changes. If you want to finish a basement, you got to be able to keep it dry first. Okay, so if you're going to waterproof it, great. If you want to divert the water, great. You can also put in a drain system around your house, okay, at the ground level, all right? Like just dig out the first foot, put in a weeping tile, put crushed stone back. Good, river stone. All the water goes into that drain and moves it away, okay? That's the secret. And when it comes to insulation, how is it a one-story or a two-story house?
It's a basement, a bungalow with a basement.
It's a bungalow with a basement. So your house on the main floor is built with 2x4s, right? It's 3.5 inch thick, not 5.5 inch thick lumber.
It's what do you call it, a block on the upper.
Oh, it's block all the way up.
Exterior, on the exterior.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, good. So then they would have framed on the inside of the block and insulation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Inside,
yeah. So you have R12 in your walls on the main part of the house?
No, there's no insulation.
There's nothing? Just the basement or the whole house?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
The whole house, we don't have insulation.
Okay.
Because I can feel on the bungalow where there's no insulation.
Right.
Because there's the water.
Wow.
I'll have to check. But the basement is the one concern.
Okay, so you're going to start with that?
About the mold, because of that water mark. That's the one before we move.
Yeah, okay. So the way you insulate a basement with your house is going to be a bungalow usually is R14 insulation. You can do that, okay? So R14, use 2x4s for framing. And we have a video that shows a technique for just building a wall with insulation and a plastic wrap in behind and leaving a little airspace. That's perfect for your house, okay? Yeah, it's perfect for your house because your floor also doesn't have a vapor barrier under your concrete. So they're always going to have moisture coming into that basement. You need that airspace to help get rid of it. So if you follow that video for framing your basement, you're going to be okay. All right? All right?
Okay. And then if I decided, but you said I have to decide if I have to waterproof the around.
You want to get the water away from the house, yeah. That's your first job.
Do you have the video?
Yeah, well, not yet. We're going to make one though. All right? Brilliant.
You can use my house.
We get that offer a lot, and no. We are trying our best to make content where we live, so we're going to be doing that system at my house. It's just not going to be this year. I think we're doing all of our water diversion system next year in the spring. All right? But if you have questions, you can always give me a call. Perfect. Design world. Bum, bum, bum. Let's talk design. What do people, what do they come to you with when they're talking design? Like, let's face it, you're a designer, you go into someone's home, and the first thing you get in the conversation is their thoughts about the design, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, because they've already designed their house, and they're just calling you in to say that they're great. Right? Not always, but very common, isn't it? Yeah. So, what are people looking for nowadays?
So, for example, in our recent projects, mostly they wanted to have like an open concept
Yes.
kitchen,
Yes.
bring down the walls,
Yeah.
and most of the time that's the case. Just to open up the kitchen.
Open.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing because, if you go back to the houses that were built at the turn of the century, like 1905, everything had a wall and everything had a door,
Exactly.
right? That's the days of children are to be seen but not heard and then gone after dinner, right? And it was a different time and everybody had lots of them. Yeah. But nowadays, everybody wants an open concept because they're not having as many children, right? And they want to have lots of parties. Is that fair to assume? Everybody wants room for 20 friends around the island, right? Yeah. It's an interesting design concept because it's specific to a stage in life, right? So now, the European model of home ownership, all right? I own a home, and in 150 years, my great-great-grandchildren will own the same home. And don't touch it unless it's broken, right? In North America, we're strange. We want a house for when we're 25 to 35. we want a different house because that one's not good for 35 to 55. And then afterwards, we want a different house for 55 to 65. And then we need something different completely for 65 until we die. We're very strange like that. We want everything and we want it now. And so we're in this phase of open concept because the new generation aren't having children for a long time, but they have lots of friends. Very expensive. And there's a lot of homes that are getting lots of open spaces that I think in 20 years we're going to be renovating, putting walls back in. I know, it sounds silly, doesn't it? But it's true.
Why was it being perfect?
Because open concept is fun, but it's not practical.
Yeah, you can leave the open concept for one floor and do the.
Yeah, see, most people forget that when you do open concept, you have nowhere to hide anything. So you have to live an incredibly clean life. So the open concept comes with clean, comes with cleaners, comes with lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a great concept. But then as soon as you introduce kids to the open concept, it's no longer clean. You'll never keep it clean. And if you try, you'll go crazy. Because just kids, and me, I'm a kid too, I leave things laying around everywhere, right? What about design are people getting into nowadays? Are they still talking quartz in the kitchens? Yeah.
But regarding the open concept, so people who have kids and they're concerned about the mess they can make,
Yes.
they usually renovate the basement, they have a second kitchen.
Mhm.
They always do that for them. Like,
Yes.
Second kitchen, the kids are not allowed probably in the...
Not allowed on the main floor. Yeah.
But that's the idea, like...
For the neighbors.
Yes. So
For the neighbors.
we do a huge renovation and have a huge open concept, and it's for Friday nights,
Yeah.
but we live downstairs. Yeah. You know, in a strange way, if you were to tell most people in the world that, they would look at you like you're very odd. It's like, you spend all your money on a room you never use, and you live in the basement. It does sound odd, but that's what we do. All right. Anyway, when it comes to design, for me, I'm very practical. I always design from an installation standpoint. Okay? I'm always looking at what does it cost to make it finished versus other options, right? So, for instance, in new home construction, they design everything with a sprayed ceiling. They use texture because it's quick and it's cheap and easy. When I'm doing a bathroom, for instance, if you want to have multiple functions in a shower, you can buy a wall unit and just stick it on the wall, right? And that works. Or you can spend thousands of dollars on plumbing and plumbers, and then thousands of dollars on tilers to put it all in behind the wall and do a nice finished job, right? So for me, design, I'm a very practical guy. If I want function, I'll find a way to do it without all the time and labor and money to get it done. Because my experiences with most investments in renovation, it changes again. It's very strange. People don't renovate for something that'll be around for 50 years, right? They're renovating for 20, maybe. So you can actually renovate most things wrong and it'll last 20 years, which is very odd. But I'm a practical guy. I like to think about the end from the beginning. And if I'm going to do something that's going to cost me a lot of money to make a change, then I won't do it. Yeah, I'm strange, but that's all right. And you wanted tips and tricks.
I have a question about the basement.
Yeah, sure.
So I have a walkout basement,
Oh, nice.
and the furnace is, there's one window that faces outside, of course the furnace is there.
Yeah, okay.
Where else would you put it, right?
Where else would you put a furnace? Right next to the window in a walkout.
Furnace sliding glass doors. But I did notice the concrete floor
Yes.
around the furnace and the hot water tank. It's crumbling a little bit. I had a contractor look at it, and he said, don't worry, it's just moisture seeping from underneath.
Yeah.
But he didn't think that there was any issue, but I thought, well, this would
Yeah.
be-
So one thing you need to know, and this is very, very interesting because in our part of the world, our basements, we don't use rebar. We don't use steel in the concrete in the basement floor. It's just poured on top of the stone. So you can cut it and open it and move things. It means it's not structural, okay? The weight transfer from your people and your furniture is from the concrete onto the gravel underneath it. So if it degrades or it cracks, it doesn't mean anything. It's a cosmetic issue, okay? The only time you have to worry about your basement floor is if you have water coming through it. Because that means that your water table around your house is getting high and you're about to have a major disaster. So if you start seeing wet lines in your basement floor, the first thing you do is got to get a sump pump in there. But any other kind of damage, usually from moisture transfer, there's salts in the earth. And so you can get the effervescence, you know, that salt. It looks like almost like a white mold growing on it. All these types of things, just wash them off and you got to move on. Yeah, sure, I'd love a drink, thanks. Basements in Canada, generally speaking, are designed to be finished, but they require more than just walls and floors, right? Excuse me. We were talking earlier about this gentleman's basement, and he has a block wall. The basements of that era were not designed to be finished, they were designed for storage. And that's where the mechanical stuff went. The reason we have basements is because we have a freezing line, right? We get frost in the winter. So all of our septic and sewer systems and water supply has to go below the frost line. And when they first started making cellars with the homes in this country, they made it for just tall enough for people to walk through so they can maintain their equipment. It was like an overgrown crawl space, right? The average height back then was just around 5 feet tall. And so most basements are about a 5-foot basement on old century homes. And as the average height started to change, they realized, well, might as well just make it 8 feet, right? Make it another living space. And so now everybody buys a house, they have a basement, and then they think they have twice as much house as they actually have. But reality, you've got some construction technology you got to introduce to your basement first. One is waterproofing, right? If we were to take a look at a house that has a finished basement and it gets a flood, which is not uncommon, right? The process for fixing that is to rip it all out and then put it all back in again. Makes sense. That's what the insurance company's for. That's what you paid for. But what they don't do is they don't fix the problem. They don't diagnose the problem. They don't care about your problem. But if you have that problem 3 times, you don't get insurance anymore. It's kind of a catch-22. So you need to know that a basement can be finished. If you haven't lived there for very long and there's not a lot of history, you may not know if you're susceptible to problems because our weather patterns change. And we, as a construction business, engineer things for a 50-year life cycle because over 50 years, you'll get all the different types of weather that we're going to get. And there's always going to be one block of weather that's bad for your house, okay? Very, very low percentage of homes are built to perform well in every type of weather. And by that, I mean some houses do really well in the wind, but they don't do well in the wind and the rain. Some do well in the wind and the rain and the heat, but are really bad with ice. And so at all different times of the year, you're going to have problems. Basements are the worst because they have a lot of weak spots. Most new homes do not have a requirement for a sump pump in it unless they're out in the country. Okay? If you're attached to the city water supply and city plumbing, then you don't have to have a sump pump. And so a lot of people get floods in the basement because of high water table or because they have bad drainage around the property or they're on a hill and their neighbor went in and put a new cedar hedge and now you're trapping all the water next to your foundation. It all comes down, has nowhere to go. And you have a tree in your front yard and the roots have overgrown. Next thing you know, you're 2 inches of water in your basement. That never happened before. So when you're building a basement, you need to make sure that you've got control over the water events, right? Sump pumps are important. Waterproofing your foundations are important. You want to make sure that your foundation is also in good shape. You don't have any cracks. If you don't control the water is going to move things around your house. It'll wash out the sand underneath your house. It'll change your gravel. All these things can go wrong. So basements are tricky. Sometimes the best basement renovation you can do is really cheap. Put up your walls, put in a floating floor, and if it gets destroyed, build it again, right? But if you want to make a really nice living space in a basement, then paying for French drains on the inside of your house, right? Putting it to a sump pit can be very valuable. It can cost a lot of money, but it can be really, really valuable to protect your investment. If you're going to put furniture and theater seating and bars and all that other stuff and $10 a square foot flooring in your basement, you better protect it because it's going to have an occasion in the next 10 or 15 years when it'll be damaged. And that's just the way it is. I don't know, guys. Anything else you want to talk about? You got any questions? Maybe we can fill. Go ahead, Oleg.
So I have, right now we're doing a home renovation as well,
Yeah.
more exterior.
Okay.
And so the house is located, the driveway has a downslope.
Yep.
but when it rained, the water was always accumulating around the front door and like the sides.
Okay.
So what we did is we removed the driveway, and then we did the concrete pour, all like from the front door to the side and so the guys recommended that. I didn't have much experience. So they said that would protect, that would take the water and then they changed what's called the drain, like the top.
Yeah, it's an eaves troughs and drain spouts, yeah.
So they're more away from the house.
Sure.
But again, I just don't know. Was that a good thing? Is that going to protect it from the water coming to the house? Because I mean, water goes under the concrete, no? Or like
Well, it all depends. Like if you have all of your roof is actually a huge space, right? And you put all of that in a trough, and then you collect it all down the pipes. Where does the water go from there? Comes down, and the pipe goes away from the house?
away from the house into the backyard.
Okay. And,
It's like 3 feet away from the house,
okay.
which is still not that far.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised, right? Because water will take the easiest path. So if it takes 3 feet away, and then from here, where does it go? Does it just pool? Because if it pools, then underneath the ground it's going right back to the house again, right?
Well,
So
it's just down inside.
yeah. So
What is the best solution?
some things, sometimes they can do is they take a big well, and they actually got a big plastic bucket, and they'll put it in the ground in your yard, and they'll take the pipes and run to that. Okay, it's like a reservoir tank. Okay, so when you get a heavy rain, it'll take all that water and put it there. Especially if you don't have drainage. Sometimes in Toronto, especially the older neighborhoods, the houses are close together. There's lots of hills. There's lots of retaining walls. Lots of opportunity to hold water, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in contracting and you're running into these situations, sometimes they'll put a reservoir tank that has a bunch of little holes in it, and it'll fill full of a couple 100 gallons of water, and it'll have slow release over a few days. That can work. A lot of times, if you have your downspout and it just runs 10, 12 feet on the wall, just think of it like a triangle, right? Your house is 8 feet down. You want the water at least 8 feet out. And by the time it trickles down through, it's like watching Plinko, right? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, you'll be fine.
So I think the backyard is actually sloping towards the.
If you have a slope on your backyard, you have no problem at all.
No problem. Right?
No problem at all. 3 feet is plenty.
Concrete would be like the water would take.
Again, right? Depends. Did they put the concrete and it's all sloping away from the house?
Yeah.
And then you're okay, right? So that'll be fine. Yeah. Yeah, you could do the same thing with concrete. You could do the same thing with grass, right? Yeah, water will run downhill. So if you give it an opportunity to run downhill, then it runs away. And that's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're fine.
So now another question. You're in a renovation, right? So
I don't know if I can give you 2 in a row, but go ahead. Another question. Go ahead, Alec. No, I'm just playing.
Okay. So this is an interesting situation because everybody's in renovation. So I talk to customers. It's all about reviews. This is just kind of.
Oh, this is the business side of innovation. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's everybody's reviews, website.
Yeah.
Check a couple of websites. They read about you.
Sure.
And this contractor that we hire has no website, has no reviews.
Yes.
And he just recommended he goes from neighbor to neighbor.
Yes.
And kind of is my parents working with him, so
Yep,
they
yep.
don't really go online or check. So
Yeah.
when I asked him, he had his business card. That was it. But
Yep.
nothing else.
There's lots of small
Right.
contractors that do that, right?
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
just he actually has 3 crews of guys.
Sure.
And it was surprising.
So he's been around long enough that everybody's good reputation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard from people. It's just interesting when you're in the renovation business. Have you came across I never heard of a contractor like that. Now everything is
I
about
never like that.
home stuff.
Yeah.
Google his name, some mob boss that got.
Oh, sure. But be careful what you believe on Google, right? I mean, yeah.
He has an excellent reputation.
I actually had a wonderful opportunity.
Like
You can't.
And I went to a few stores to get supplies and things like that.
Yeah.
And I asked, I said, do you know this person? But they're like, he's very good.
Yeah.
He's very good.
So there's really 2 worlds. There's the world of reviews, which can be completely artificial, and they can be completely vindictive. I had the wonderful pleasure a couple years ago of being extorted by 2 clients, which is one of the reasons why we closed down the company. Because now that we have public knowledge, they thought that they'd be able to not have to pay me their bills, and they would do nasty reviews online just to make a point. It was quite strange. I hadn't run into people like that before, but when you're just a small company, nobody wants to hurt you. But yeah, anyway, so be careful what you believe. If you're in business and you want to have public reviews, the best thing you can do, and this is one of the ways that you can separate online reviews from truth. When you have your contract, have in your contract where your clients have a responsibility to allow your prospective clients to come over and talk to them. All right? Your best review is where you're working right now. Okay? Because the truth is, you could hire a crew, and they were great 2 jobs ago. But the last job, the company hired somebody and he's all on coke, and he's crazy, and he's stealing things from the house, and the job went upside down, and people are leaving, and the company's about to be destroyed. But two jobs ago, everything was wonderful. And that's all you know because it's online. So the best review you can get is, where is he working right now? And if you're in business and you allow your prospective clients to talk to your current customers, it does 2 things. It lets them find out that you're still doing good business, and it helps to encourage you to continue doing good business. So it's something nobody talks about. Everybody talks about all kinds of different ways to find a good contractor. But I've been in the business a long time. I've worked for a company that was so huge, and every week they would hire 10 or 15 new subcontractors. They had no idea who they were. They were flying blind, right? But they did a marvelous job of monitoring and using legal processes to keep the reviews really nice online. But they had all kinds of problems in the background. And it was strange because you could go to the street where they were working and talk to all the neighbors, and they all knew the horror story. But you'd never find evidence of that problem online. So it works both ways. So the best review you can get is, where are you working? Let me go talk to your current customer. People generally don't take time out to do that. But if you offer that, then it gives everybody a really good peace of mind. I mean, yeah, here's the job I'm working on right now, right? And if they're happy and everything's going well, that client will sign with you because nobody else does it. I might have just given you a good leg up. But nobody does it, right? People are busy. So even take a phone call. Nobody wants to take a phone call.
But I have clients that
Right?
see that.
So if you have clients, it's like, as long as I'm working in your house, you've got to be willing to be the referral for my future business. And you can put that in your contract. And it's great, because then it's up to the people who want to do business with you to do their proper due diligence, right? They can pop by the job site. They can see you working there, which is great. They can see what the job site looks like. They can talk to the homeowner. And if you're doing good business and you got a clean site and you're organized, they're going to love to do business with you. And you can really set yourself apart. It's a thought. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Back to YouTube.
Back to YouTube. Yes.
Do you work with, do you do cross-references between different channels on your channel, or you're completely focusing on?
Yeah, I don't really pay too much
Do you
attention.
invite anyone from other channels to?
Oh, like collaborations?
Collaboration stuff.
Yeah, no, we haven't done much of that. We did a collaboration here in Toronto in the springtime with a travel couple, just because we liked their channel, and we thought they were fun. And we wanted to do a deck project this year, but we weren't working on one at my house.
I mean, basically, it brings their audience to your channel and that.
Yeah, in theory that works. Yeah, I don't know. There's no way to measure it. I don't know. I mean, if you want exposure, there's a lot better ways to do it.
Okay. And another question is also about YouTube. Let's say you want to show something that you haven't faced yourself before, or something new that appeared and you saw, oh, it's nice. I don't know, like let's say warm floors. Or
Yes.
something, I don't know which is not popular in here so much. Would you invite someone who is
A professional?
Yeah, professional, or would
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do it yourself and then, or
No, for my channel, I just do everything DIY. I take people for what they say. So it's a great example. Like for instance, I found a company that said, yeah, you can do this for heating system. And I found a company that said, yes, you can put this heating system under this particular floor. And so I put them together and did the job. Nice and simple, right?
So all your videos is from your house now?
Right now they are.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's,
Right, because you said you closed the company, so where do you get all this?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. That's
just buy a house.
How big is your house?
It's not a mansion. It's just it's a very traditional 1880 farmhouse.
1880.
Yeah. So my basement's worse than yours. Yeah. Our basement is stacked stone foundation. So basically what it is they dug a hole, and when all the stones they found in that hole, they put back and made a wall out of it. And then they cut some trees down, and they fall the trees over top of the hole, and then that's the foundation of the building. And then they build something on top of that. So I still have the trees in my basement. It's a little crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're from which, Ottawa or
I live in Ottawa now.
Ottawa? Okay.
Yeah, but I grew up in Cambridge, Ontario, an hour south of here. And that's where I learned to love all these old homes, because it's one of the older parts of the country. I know it's kind of weird, but there's a great big river. Everybody used to live along the river back in the old days. So we used to renovate a lot of homes from the late 1800s, back when I was a kid. And so living in Ottawa is fun because there's a lot of turn-of-the-century homes over there. So I love to renovate there. A lot of 9 and 10-foot ceilings. As a designer, you love that, wouldn't you? Yes, 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 yes. It's fun because now they're starting to make basements with 9-foot ceilings. It's about time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have the 9-foot ceiling in the basement?
Yeah, my house is 15 years old.
Yeah.
But I've seen some of the new builds in my area, and the basements, the builders are now finishing the basements.
Yes.
And the finished basement is at least 10 feet.
That's an interesting perspective.
It's crazy.
You know, I'd love to touch on that for a minute. Why builders finish basements? I don't think they should. I think it should be illegal.
Should be illegal?
Yeah.
They give you the option.
Yeah, I don't think they should be doing it.
Do like a big wrap, or some will put in like an extra bedroom and a bathroom.
Yeah. I'm going to do a video on that one of these days.
If they give you the option to finish it.
I'm gonna do a video on that because I think it should be illegal. It should be against code to finish a basement when you build a house.
Yeah, they don't do things.
No, timing is wrong. See, when you build a house in this country, we don't take 3 years to do the foundation and the framing. So you pour your concrete, right? And then within weeks, they put on a plastic sill and framing and sealed it up with a membrane, and the concrete can't cure. The water can't escape. And so what happens is all these new homes have got finished basements and the insulation is soaking wet. But they use fiberglass pink because they're too cheap to use mineral wool, right? Because it's code. And they don't have an airspace. And so they take R20 insulation and they use plastic and they strap it to the wall and they compress it so they don't have R20 anymore. And then it gets soaking wet and then your basement's freezing cold. And if the water does get out, it gets into the drywall and then you have mold.
So how about custom homes? We work a lot, every custom home I work on, it's always like they build a house within the year,
Yeah,
right? It's
Yeah.
finished basement because they don't want to leave, right?
Mhm.
Like a $3 million home and then leave the basement. So it's
right.
always finished there. So that's the same issue. It should be, how long should you leave it for?
Well, it can take 2 to 3 years for the curing process to finish. But the first year for sure, as most of the water comes out.
Because it also settles, right? A lot of the house, like you see.
Well, the house can settle, you could have cracks in your foundation, and yeah, I mean, most of that is just drywall repair. You can open a section of wall. But the environmental hazard of sealing that up, and the fact that we're trying to create an energy efficient home with R20 insulation, and you don't get it, right? I mean, they'll literally frame the wall with 2x4s, which means insulation requires depth to get R20. Otherwise, you have R14 as a 2x4, because it's the amount of insulation. The bigger the number, it just means how thick it is. So you need to frame the thickness of the insulation you want. The code doesn't require new home builders to use 2x6 on the frame in a basement. So they use 2x4s. But they put in R20 insulation. So they're compressing it right up to the concrete so it can't breathe. And then they cover it in plastic. And because they're so good at what they do, they even use acoustic caulking and they seal it all up. So they've trapped all the water in the wall. And so your insulation is actually almost useless. So there's a lot of new builds out there that have finished basements that are freezing cold. So it's a great selling feature in the basement business. You might have a finished basement and you need to refinish it. We did a video 2 years ago. It was the walkout basement. Did you see that series? The walkout basement videos? We did that series. Yeah, I mean, you just look for the finishing of basement, and you'll see we did a flooring system with the dimpled membrane and 5/8 plywood. It's like the panels you buy at the hardware store, only on large scale. It's half the price you do it yourself, and it's wonderful. But that basement was completely finished, new build, and the homeowner there checked in behind their plastic because it was all getting full of condensation, and it was kind of freaking them out. And it turned out that it was just that same situation I explained now. They were about to renovate and finish a basement, and their walls were soaking wet. They put their hand in there, and they needed a towel to dry off. I mean, it was ridiculous. So they ended up tearing out all the insulation and spray foaming the whole basement. That was a crazy expense because the concrete never had a chance to dry.
Is that more expensive, the spray foam?
Not as much as it used to be. Yeah. It's, considering what you get, it's become a lot more economical.
I just had a quick question for you. 'Cause
Yeah.
in Ottawa, we have so many old buildings, and there's not enough construction companies out there to go through, reframe, restructure,
Yeah.
get all the new building up to code and all that. What's your vision for the future in the construction industry? Is it more people, homeowners renovating their homes to upscale it and, make that life that they want, or?
That's tough because, like in Toronto, the housing value, the same house here is half the cost in Ottawa.
Yeah,
Okay?
it's crazy.
So if you live here, it's crazy to get one. But once you got one, you're crazy not to hire somebody because you can afford to. Why put yourself through all that stress, right? Go downstairs or get a contractor to do the work because you can afford to, right? When the contract is over, your house has gone up so much in value, you can get it reappraised, you can get the money right back out of the house, and you're right back to getting free renovations.
But then your channel is not going to go.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's okay. But you actually have the ability to get a free renovation when you live in Toronto because the value of your house increases at least the same as, and sometimes you make money, right? Now, that's a general statement. There's all kinds of variances there, but the rule of thumb is they're so close to par when you're hiring a contractor that doing it yourself is if you're in a necessity, you just got the house, right? You put everything you got, you finally got a house because the government makes it so hard to get one, and you want to do an upgrade, you got to do it yourself. Great, I'm here, I'll help you out. You live in Ottawa, you want to do a renovation. You don't get the return on your investment, okay? You got a 4-bedroom home here in Toronto, and you have grass, okay? You're $1 million, right? It's ridiculous. In Ottawa, the average sale of the home, I think, is in around $410,000 right now for a 4-bedroom on a full lot, single-family home, brand new neighborhood. Yeah, okay. So put the same kitchen in a Toronto home and in an Ottawa home, all right? You have the same material costs. You have the same labor cost because we live in Ontario. In Ontario, half the money you put into a renovation goes to the government. Don't even think about it. Don't even do any math. Half of it's gone. If you're putting in a $50,000 kitchen, the government just made 25 grand, okay? So if you're in Toronto, your house just went up $50,000, you're fine. If you're in Ottawa, you just lost $25,000. So it's a different market. So now in Ottawa, we got a lot of people who have government jobs and they can afford to throw their money away. But for everybody else, that $25,000, that's hard to manage. Like, how do you reconcile that? So what they do is they change the materials, they change their cabinets, they're cutting costs on their products, but they still cost the same labor, and now they're getting even less value. So what I'm telling people is, do it yourself. Here's how. Buy the best cabinets you can find, the best countertops you can find, the best flooring you can find, because those products are what dictate the value of your home. And now your labor's free. You don't give the government hardly any money. And maybe you'll make something. But if you don't do it yourself and do it well, you bring in time to sell the house. So you renovated yourself, and you got your neighbor who paid a company to do it. You both have the same product in the same house on the same street, same colored door, everything. It's ridiculous, right? You both go up for sale. They walk into their house, they see it all professionally done, boom, boom, boom. The house is going for $500,000. They walk in your house, and you're trying to sell for $500,000, and they go, oh, well, they didn't do the flooring as professional as the other place, Or the countertop doesn't have a nice overhang on the edge there. Somebody mismeasured. They did little details. And then what they do is they buy the other guy's house. And so then you got to lower your price. And so most DIYers, they don't do it themselves, they destroy it themselves. They make mistakes that cost them their asset, right? And so it doesn't make any sense to do it yourself if you're not going to do it right. Okay? Yeah.
Well, you can't do it right if you don't have it. Like experience is the only, like you have experience. So
Yeah.
That's what I find. There's a lot of people that in your comments are saying I did this myself, but I go to a lot of job sites and people ask me to go and like they show me a kitchen that they tried to install and it's usually a mess, like a floor or they go buy all the tools and her husband gets excited, buys a stand full of tools and IKEA kitchens and or even
You don't say even IKEA. That's one of the most difficult kitchens in the world to install. Because it's contrary to common sense, right?
There's a lot of pieces, but I have people ordering and
Right.
I want to do my own installation. I say that's fine, So
Yes.
people, they watch a YouTube video and then I explain how to do it.
Okay, so first, we did a podcast downstairs with, what was it, Norseman? Chris from Norseman? And I explained to him, I said, in the world of DIY, if you watch a video, you'll get an emotional response to it. You'll be like, I can do this, right? Woo! Yes, I can I can tear up my own wall and build my own kitchen. The truth is that there are 13 major construction steps in building a house. And if you're renovating anything, you're probably going to be touching at least 11 of them. All right? So there's 11 trades that you need more than just one video on each. More than just an overview on how to do a kitchen. You have got to develop all those skills. So where I'm trying to bridge the gap is get all the information you need. Understand your building science. Understand your own house. Because your house is different than someone else's house was built in 1990. Right? You can do different things. Your house, it's very easy to make if you wanted to excavate, you could add on to your foundation yourself with a hammer, because block walls are easy to bust a hole in. Right? You could add on to your house and add your own foundation. You can do that. You don't even need heavy equipment, just a lot of shovel work. But the point is there's so many trade skills that you need to do a renovation. Start small, get some experience, right? And if you need help, then become a member of the channel. We're here to help you, right? I'll take my experience, put it to work for you. And it's not expensive. But you're right, DIY is a very potentially dangerous thing to do. And I don't never shy away from that.
But what's nice is people, like you said, they can learn and see.
They can learn and see.
Because there's a lot of contractors that go on YouTube, they watch a video, and then they become a great contractor.
One of the things that we're changing in our video style is we're starting to do things and showing the mistakes. They're coming soon.
Your mistakes? Or?
Yeah. Yeah.
You actually show.
I'm going to show where I make mistakes. Yeah, we're going to show all that. I want to demystify how easy it is by showing the problems.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think it's important. You had a question? I'm sorry. I just wanted to get to this question first.
What's the benefit for the YouTube stuff? What do you get?
What do I get?
Yes.
I get to help a lot of people who can't afford to hire a contractor otherwise. My job.
You made a lot of contribution to your audience.
Yeah.
Lovely. What do you get back?
I get paid. Yeah, I make a living.
This is the only one?
Me?
I'm getting paid is the only one? Or
Yeah, no, I mean, the business model, I'm at a size now where I can make a living.
so the business has become larger?
Yeah, it's big enough now, yeah.
But how many people do you have to work like in the channel? Because you usually would have like so many subscribers, you probably have like a couple of guys, right?
Well, I've got myself and my videographer who does all my editing and all my uploading. I've got my son helping me with the renovation, and my wife is assisting me a lot with the administration when she has time, but she has a job, so. And then my daughter, Courtney, does a lot of my social media, right? And I make them all work for free, so that helps.
Volunteers, that's my fault.
Nothing wrong with that, right? Yeah, but no, I can make a living now. Yeah, but what I get the most is knowing that I like to help people. I love to teach, right? So when I make a video that solves a problem, I know I'm helping thousands of people solve that problem. Because I know Toronto's a rare thing, right? You got Toronto, you got LA, you got Miami, Tampa Bay, other major cities. You hire a contractor, you afford to do it. You've been in the house for 5 years, you've got enough asset there that you can actually take a loan to renovate and get it done without putting yourself in real danger. you can pay professionals. In most cities in North America, like for instance in Canada, the average income of the family isn't even $80,000, right? Where do they live? If your family's only making $80,000, you're not living in Toronto unless you got 3 families in that house, right? If you're living in Kitchener and you're a single family and you're making $80,000, hiring a contractor to renovate your house that's only worth not $1 million, not $500,000 where we are, $325,000, same cost for labor, same cost for materials. What are they going to do? Right? It's a tricky question. And there's a lot of people in a lot of different economic demographics that can't afford to hire good contractors. And I would rather see them do it themselves than hire a bad contractor. Right? I think that's safer. I'll get you his phone second, because I know you had a question.
I was gonna say, I watched a video where you did a concrete kitchen counter.
Yes.
And then
Wasn't that a
you
disaster?
comment later, and then you said, it didn't work out so well, but you didn't really elaborate.
Yeah.
I was wondering what happened.
Okay, so here's the problem with concrete countertops, and nobody ever talks about it, because you can make them look great, but they're not sanitary.
No, I don't think so.
Okay? You can't find a food-grade sealer for your concrete. The only company that made the concrete and a sealer and a wax that were all food grade, that were compatible and tested, was what I used. The concrete was such a quick set concrete that I didn't have time to form it or vibrate it or shape it. You pour it out and, and it was done. It was ridiculous. And so what we ended up with was this experience of trying to make a concrete with a form, and I couldn't mix this stuff as fast as I needed it. And we filmed it in real time with me doing it as myself, because that's what I'm expecting my viewers to have, that kind of experience. So, yeah, I mean, if you like rustic stuff, it was okay, you know. The client was on board for rolling the dice on it, and so we went with it. And I mean, it still looks kind of neat. It's fun. It's a very functional countertop. It has an overhang. I used rebar. I'm not an idiot, you know. I mean, is it my favorite countertop ever? No. Would I do it again? Not with that product. It's come a long way, though, the last few years. So now there are products on the market that you can pour your concrete and do an epoxy finish. Do you want to be cutting on epoxy and then potentially getting that in your food source? No, that's not healthy. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sold on the idea of concrete countertops. I didn't like my experience with it. Our problem there was, our option was to make a mold off-site, pour the concrete, and you've seen this on videos if you've ever watched it, and then you take the mold off, you flip it over, and you polish it, you know, and it's nice and pretty, and then you carry it in. Our concrete countertop was over 9 feet long. Well, they only make melamine sheets, an 8-foot board. So, and then a 9-foot sheet of concrete would have to have been solid concrete. We couldn't cheat because of our design with the sink at the intersection where, and the whole, we had to pour it on site. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I wouldn't do that again.
A counter now that looks or mimics.
Yeah, there's a lot more, there's a lot of options. We're gonna explore some of those next year with some outdoor furniture first before I do another kitchen countertop. Yeah, so I can actually do all the work outside. But if you're gonna go with a concrete countertop, leave it small enough that you can use it on the mold and reverse it. Yeah, because you have better options there, without a doubt. I wasn't a big fan, but at least the whole world saw me struggle and it was cute, yeah. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hey, good to see you.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. You had another question, sir?
Yes, your speech like a better professor, you know. Originally, before you starting with YouTube, the same. You are like to talk
I never shut up since I was born. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I'm the middle child. So my older brother got everything because he was first. My younger brother got everything because he was last. And I had to talk, or they forgot I was even in the room. Yeah. So it kind of came with the territory. Yeah, it's not good. I really need to learn how to be quiet sometimes. But it works for me in this business, right? So it's a fun thing. I get to work and talk at the same time. I've always loved to teach, right? I'd love to have young guys on the job site. And at one point, it just clicked in my head. Instead of showing one guy how to do something, let's show thousands. That makes more sense, right? Yeah, it was fun. you have any questions?
Well, I don't know what one's been asked before, so the risk of stumbling into...
It'll be hard. It's a really wide range here, yeah.
So I'm Steve from Canadian Contractor Magazine.
Okay.
Contractor Magazine, but one thing I wanted to ask you about, we get a lot of public relations stuff come our way about net zero energy homes.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've talked about that, but net zero energy...
Not yet. No, hit me.
The government, the federal government, Ottawa, have actually got in place right now that their policy is officially that by 2030, all the new homes built in Canada, that's only 11 years away,
Yes.
have to be built to net zero energy. That doesn't mean they don't use energy.
That's right.
But the insulation of the house, the way the house is oriented on the lot, the use of trees, sunlight, and all this, means that it could be hooked up to solar panels or geothermal or something. It could actually not use any energy, and that's the standard. Now, a lot of contractors are saying, holy cow, this is adding $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to a home.
Mm-hmm.
It's extreme, right?
Yes.
So are you beginning to hear about net zero energy from your customers, Jeff? Are you beginning to think about it? What's the whole take on that?
Wow, we're going to get into that kind of, okay, let's get into it. I think they're crazy. All right? I think a lot of the talk about going to net zero energy and putting that kind of restriction on the market to do certain things is dangerous. And it's a lot of tongue wagging. I think it's a lot of political and not practical. I think we could probably go there in time, but until they invent a solar panel that can get enough power from the sun to last 48 hours, forget it.
They're going to ban fossil fuel heating in the UK.
Yeah.
As if they don't have enough problems.
But you know what? I mean, there's a lot of moves to save the planet. All right. The number one problem with our planet is the fact that we have half of the production and half of the waste produced without any regulation. And everybody else in the world who's regulated is taking on the mantra of solving the problem, and they have no ability to do it. So if we want to just be honest, all right, drinking straws are not going to save a whale. Going completely solar in North America isn't going to solve a darn thing when it comes to fossil fuel. And we can't solve the problems in the world looking at the Western society like we're the problem, because we're already about as clean as you're going to get. Now, I understand Europe is a little cleaner. They've got much more technology when it comes to being wise with thermal and net zero energy. But there's a different dynamic there. We're talking about European homes where people own their house for life and generations, right? It's different. We're in an economy over in North America. We exist on immigration. So everybody who comes here is buying a new house. We already are becoming unaffordable. If I had a message for the government, I'd say take care of your own backyard and get out of mine.
And building code changes are rapid, right?
I'll make you a deal.
Right?
Here's my message to the government. Are you ready for this? All right. You want me to put $30,000 into my home, take $30,000 out of taxes, pay your bills, and stop doing everything in debt. It's getting stupid. Because this is part of the reason why I'm here. Half the people in this country can't afford a good contractor. They just can't. So why in the hell are we trying to make the world a perfect place for the 10%? And that's just stupid. It's ideological garbage. There is an opportunity. You can buy a house today in Nova Scotia, $40,000, 5 acres, waterfront, oceanside. Nobody lives there because you can't get a job. But if you want to retire and you live in Toronto, hell, sell your $1 million house. Go live like a rock star, right? It's out there. But the average family stays where they grew up because they have family. No one's just going to leave and abandon their grandchildren to go tootle off to the East Coast and be alone. In Canada, we have the greenest country in the world. Nobody ever talks about it.
Greenest?
The greenest. There's one factor that no one ever talks about when they're talking about being environmentally conscious, and that is how much environment do we have per person in this country? If you factor in square footage into how many people live here, go away. Leave me alone. We are so green, it's disgusting. All right? We don't put any garbage in the ocean. We have some of the cleanest energy as far as fossil fuel on the planet, and we still give them a hard time. We have the most affordable housing in the world in our major cities, still, even though it's been going crazy lately.
Oh, it's still?
Right? Yeah, still. And we seem to be going backwards in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I love the idea of zero energy outlay, because why not, if we could? But we got to balance this out. It's like 10, 15 years ago, we started doing renovations, right? We'll do an upgrade on your insulation system, and we'll put a $15,000 upgrade on your insulation, and it's going to save you 30% of your energy cost. Well, your energy cost is only $1,500. So you save me $500. And I'm putting out $15,000. 30 years later, I break even. If I put that $30,000 in the bank, I'd be better off than putting it into my house, right? So if we're gonna be smart with our money, then I say we really got to be able to have the solution to the problem before we get ahead of ourselves.
And the provincial government here in Ontario, I don't know where else in the country, you know when you sell your car, you know, you have to have, you used to have a dry clean test.
Used to have, yeah.
Now they're going to do an energy rating on your house. They're just in the pilot process right now.
Sure.
So that they come along and they do a blower test.
They do the blower test, that's coming. Yeah.
And they're going to rate your house for energy efficiency.
Right.
That's going to be on your listing.
Yeah.
So when you go to sell the house, just like you have in the fridge, it's got
Yeah.
a sticker on the end of it.
Yeah.
That label's going to be on your house. So
Yeah.
people are going to think, man, I want to buy that house. Have you seen the energy rating on that house?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's also something that is coming down as well. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just
No.
saying we all need to be aware of that.
Yeah, and an energy test with the blower, it's a good test, to be honest with you. I mean, we already have construction technology today where we try to seal up the home as best we can, right? Especially in Canada, because we got to protect against wind and rain and freezing and air drafts, because that just costs you a fortune. Most construction, I believe in Ontario, new home construction, they still don't even use an acoustic seal on their vapor barrier, right? Because it's not necessary. That's crazy. $6? Now there's a place you can get a return on investment. All right? You stop the air leak in your house. That's a great place to get a return. No, it's a little black caulking. It's called acoustic seal, which is supposed to be for hearing. And the reason it works is because when you stop the air moving through your walls, the sound doesn't travel. But when you stop the air moving through your walls, you also stop the heat loss. And so it's a really great deal for $6. Less traffic noise, less heat loss.
That's just for exterior walls?
Interior, all your interior walls, all your vapor barrier. If you use acoustic sealant, top and bottom.
It'll help with sound filtration?
Oh yeah, it helps quiet down the road noise, because air travels through the noise travels on the air. Yeah. There's a whole other world to talk about soundproofing there, my goodness. Yeah, buddy.
So in your 30 years of experience installing new material, taking out old material,
Yeah.
where do we start then to make this the zero energy home efficiency, sustainability? Where does it start?
Well, it's an interesting question, because they always talk about the new homes, right? Not the ones that exist,
No, it's the new home.
right? So there are no rules for
Maybe
upgrading.
it's the renovation business. Drive up the price of new homes, and renovators will be busier.
Yeah, I mean, I just hate regulation. I would love to have the opportunity, right? Maybe I'm on the wrong side of the world here, but I would rather have the opportunity to have a really awesome, efficient house and have the choice to buy one or not than be told that we have to go that way. Because my concern is, all it takes is the next guy to have this crazy idea that we should retrofit all the houses in the country. And then we're in a lot of trouble, right? Like, that means everything built in the 1930s has to be thrown in the garbage or completely gutted and spray foamed. What do you do? Like, where do you draw the line? Like, the old roof lines on those houses, I mean, they're beautiful, but they're useless, right? I mean, that's why they're all full of ice, because of heat loss. It's a strange world.
I just saw, I don't know where it was, I just saw, Jeff, the first net zero energy subdivision.
Yes.
This went out about 2 weeks ago. It's somewhere around here.
Yeah.
It's one of the big builders.
Sure. And are they doing geothermal for everything?
At the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And it was
Well, that adds 30,000 to the job right there.
Right, and it was a big press release, net zero energy subdivision.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I didn't look up the prices, but I bet the prices are, but the thing is, they're
Sure.
There are some people that want that,
Yep.
right? So,
Sure. Let them move there.
yeah.
Yeah. It's personal choice. I think that's a great idea. I love opportunity. I just don't like when we start, legislate results. I think that's a scary road to go down in every area. There's a lot of homes on the market that are not very energy efficient. And the reason for that is because they were made back when you had a heating system that created so much heat, you wanted to sit on the other side of the room or just be too hot, right? And they didn't care about drafts because the draft was always going in the other direction. It was you were heating up and melting all the snow around your house. When fuel started getting expensive in the late 70s and mortgages went crazy in the early 80s, everybody started to get a little bit more conscious about their dollar. And then the housing value started going through the roof and the salaries didn't change. And now everybody's getting, okay, well, we've got to think twice. We can't just waste it anymore, right? But it comes back to, if it costs me $500 a year to be wasteful, more than it should, but it costs me $10,000 to fix the problem, it's hard to say, let's go do something about it. Most people, I think if they knew how easy it was to take drywall off and seal up their walls, and they could double their energy efficiency overnight with a few tubes of caulking, would be surprised.
There's the video in there?
Not yet, but my gears are turning. If I'm talking slow, it's because the brain's working and I don't multitask, yeah. But honestly, we have still, I think in Ontario, about 70% of the homes have still got 2x4 construction, right? So you only got R12 when it was installed, which means R10 now. If you were to change that over, you could put R14 in. But
Did you get R14 in?
yeah, you can get R14 in a 2x4 wall.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Is this the denser material?
Yeah, it's just, I think they probably put it through some testing and got rated a little higher for pretty much the same product with an extra little bit of squeeze. Yeah, I'm not.
And you're saying you can seal off the walls like with caulking or something?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the acoustic caulking that you're talking
the acoustic seal, yeah.
Who
Yeah.
makes that?
Pardon?
Who makes that?
Don't know, but it's in every hardware store in the world. Yeah, it's about $6 a tube. Nobody ever buys it. But if you have an old house and you want to get rid of your drafts, then just get rid of your old drywall, right? Change out your vapor barrier because anything before 75 isn't Super 6. It's just really cheap little plastic. And it was the beginning of understanding moisture transfer back in those days. And so everything built before that, totally inefficient. Then they added Super 6, they made it part of the code. They didn't add acoustic seal into the code until maybe a few years ago. And in most places, if you're doing a renovation, inspectors don't care if you got it or not. Yeah, it's kind of silly. But that's where you start. The little things that make a huge difference, right? Anyway, anybody else got any questions? I don't know. Oh, welcome. What's your name? We don't have name tags on, do we? Steve, how are you doing, buddy? You got any questions?
You may have already covered it. I wandered in later. One of the things that seems to be overlooked a lot is the presence of asbestos in houses.
Sure.
Have you touched on that at all?
In a lot of our comments section we have, but I haven't run across it in my house right yet. So I haven't really had an opportunity to address it. There's probably a better way for me to address that. I was thinking about going down and talking to the guys from the insurance training department in Ottawa. You can take your asbestos 1, 2, and 3 course. And was thinking about doing a video with them and covering some of that training seminar. And hopefully getting a contractor, we can do some on-site stuff. Because there's a lot of areas in the homes, especially older ones, where you get this question a lot, and I hate this question. It's like, yeah, we ripped up this old asphalt shingle in my basement, and there's black stuff all over the floor. How do I get rid of it? And I was like, well, first, go see a doctor and find out if you're okay. Because you just took up 300 square feet of asbestos tile. God only knows what you just did to yourself, right? We try to tell people, leave it alone and go over top. That's always the simplest and most accepted practice. But you're right, there's a lot of dangerous material out there. Man, if I start talking about asbestos on my channel, then I've got to be more safety conscious as well. And I'm more of a safety second kind of guy, right? So I don't know how well that's going to go over. Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, even as the provincial government approaches it,
Yeah.
if you're doing it yourself, there's really no regulation to it. The disposal maybe, but we're pretty heavily regulated when it comes to contractors working.
Yes, we are.
So that's governed under the Ministry of Labor.
Yeah.
But even the province seems to.
And I think the biggest reason for that is because of the use of asbestos tile and commercial flooring.
Or I guess I interpret it as they figure you're not going to do yourself much harm.
Not as a homeowner doing it once off, you're right.
on your own.
It's about regular exposure over a long period of time. So if you're in the industry, yeah, they've got to regulate it. Because you don't want to be in the asbestos removal industry even for 5 years without wearing the proper gear and proper protocol. If you're in a bad situation as a homeowner, don't buy and sell old houses for a regular business. But yeah, if you expose yourself to asbestos flooring and you've done some removal of some old plaster and you've done this or that or scraped off the odd stipple ceiling, it's like crossing the street without looking. Every once in a while you'll be fine, right? You know, you got to balance things out in life. But you're right. Asbestos isn't as dangerous as people think unless you've got regular exposure. So there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype on the internet about everything, right? Every time I do a video, there's a product. There's PEX plumbing. Oh, it's going to kill the world. You know, everybody's all upset. There's always a percentage of everybody who gets a mindset that something new is always dangerous. Something old is always dangerous. Everything in life is dangerous. That's why I'm a safety second guy. You know, I believe personally that everybody that's alive today will die at one point. And so not really too concerned about how that comes to pass. As long as I'm awake when I work, I usually end up okay. I've only ever been to the hospital once. Yeah, and it was my own stupidity. So, you have a question?
I have a question. What projects are you working on next?
Nice plug, honey. Yeah. Well, this is my wife, Michelle. Yeah. Right now, we're renovating an 1880 farmhouse that has been renovated multiple times. God help us all. It is a stack stone foundation with trees for floor joists. Yeah, it's a real beaut. So we're going through every room in this house, inside and outside, doing all the DIY projects on it. We're vaulting ceilings, we're fixing up foundations, we're doing new siding. We're dealing with all the mice and all the rats, and we're starting a new kitchen next week. Next week we start the kitchen. Finally, eh? Finally. And hopefully we'll finish before it gets cold, because nobody likes barbecuing in wintertime.
Is that going to be an IKEA cabinet? Or?
Actually, yes. It is. And we had a lot of different options, but we decided to go IKEA just because it is a DIY favorite. For a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons is it's easy to renovate after the fact and then modify your kitchen and using the same cabinet. Because you can always get IKEA again.
Yes.
That one is actually, that was decided based on internet traffic, if I was completely honest. I'm a little selfish there. I do have a business to run and I got to make a living, so there's a lot of people searching out how to put IKEA kitchens in. So that'll be a really good video series for us. In the world of kitchens, you know, there's IKEA, there's particle board, there's plywood. 50 years ago, it was 1x2s. Just stick frame, right? And there's still lots of houses out there that have got stick frame kitchens in them. And I don't really worry too much about the construction technology of a kitchen cabinet as I worry about the performance. So once I get the door on, it's more about what you put inside of it as far as functionality. So we're gonna do another series on the kitchen later this year. It's a new house build, but we're gonna modify it and put all the interior kitchen gadgets in the cabinetry. So it'll be fun.
So is that going to be like a couple of videos series, or you said you do?
The kitchen is going to be quite extensive actually, because we're doing a structural wall as well.
Okay.
So we're doing open concept. Yes, to my designer friend. Yes, we're doing an open concept kitchen. So we have an old wall to take out. This one's going to be a structural beam that's going underneath all of the floor joists. Next year we're going to remove the other half of the house and open concept that one as well. and that one will be a recessed flush beam. That'll be fun. And we're also doing rustic modern in this kitchen, so we're exposing the ceiling and just going to leave it all exposed. Yeah, we got our work cut out for us. Yeah. Well, you folks joined a little late. You got any questions for me? No? Okay. You have a booth in the area here? Yeah? What do you guys do? Oh, I'm sorry? Hardwood. Oh, okay, fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, the hardwood business, eh? You can just never go wrong in this climate with Canadian hardwood, eh? It's just perfect fit every time. I don't know, they keep on manufacturing new options. But at the end of the day, if you put in Canadian hardwood in a Canadian home, it's a perfect fit. You just can't lose. Even in the bathroom.
Hardwood?
Sure. Yeah, just don't get kids. Actually, I like using hardwood in the powder room. Yeah. So if you have a little bathroom off the hallway or something, and you're putting hardwood in your house, don't change it up and put tile in the bathroom. Just go hardwood. Yeah, looks beautiful. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Wow. Okay. Go ahead.
So I don't know if so windows,
Yes.
it's sealed for the most part. So I've got vinyl windows.
Okay.
Okay. I don't
So
have
what's steel? Sorry, your frame?
sealed.
Okay.
So the windows are sealed.
Yep.
So the framing around the window is sealed. I don't get water in the house.
Sure.
Everything leaking, but there's fog inside the window.
Yes.
So I've seen replace,
Yes.
and I've seen there's a method. I guess they put a little hole in, and then they.
Yeah, they can charge the gas in the window again. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Some windows that works fine, and some it doesn't. But if you have condensation in your window, it might have to do with the ventilation in the house as well. So do you have? It's on the back of the house. Is it so sun exposure? Yes or no?
Faces west.
Facing west. So this time of year, definitely.
Winter, like
Yeah. Do you have the ability? Do you know who put in the windows, or is there a manufacturer sticker or stamp on it?
I haven't looked really hard, but
Okay. How old is the house?
14.
Okay, so then you're fine. So every window that's that age is going to have a little plate, little sticker in it, in between the glasses.
Oh, in the.
Yeah, it'll have a code, so you can actually find out who made the window. It'll be on file. You can call them up and say, "Can I fix this or not?" And if so, can you send out the tech? All right. No problem. Yeah, any houses that are built within computer age, almost all of them have everything on file. And because those window companies love doing rework for you. It's a good business model. So if you look up that stamp and your operator stops working or something happens traumatic, you can just say, "Oh, this is the number," and they'll make exactly the same window base that's on file and just reinstall it for you. Yeah, it's real quick and easy. Yes? We have 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, question in the back. Yes?
Yeah, what would you like to see? What's your vision? What's your future for Home Renovision?
Home Renovision's future. Take over the world. Yeah, right? Well, I'm not shy. I would love to see this grow to a place where it becomes a really valuable, intricate resource, so that anybody who's interested in doing their own DIY work has not just access to information, but access to a network, access to possibly different labor options, right? I'd like to see our influence grow beyond just how to build stuff and influence into the supply of things. I think that'd be really good. Try to make things more affordable. Without getting into too much crazy, I'd like to see 100,000 subscribers a month from Norway. No, seriously, I have no idea where it's going to go. It's very strange. We're happy where we are. We love helping people. It keeps growing, so we'll see what happens. As long as there's people out there who need help, then we'll continue to help them. It seems like the Canadian way,
Do you add any personal videos to your channel, or it's only?
No. Nobody cares about my personal life. When I'm done working, I go to sleep.
Well, what if like a different topic? Would you recommend doing like a channel with like interior design and renovation and like personal development?
Yeah, we do have plans for a second channel.
Oh, second.
We have more than one kind of content on the channel now. We have how-tos and we have like project video. It's a little more like TV. So we're splitting that up because it's a different audience.
So different, so,
Yeah.
so split the topics.
Yeah. And I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a lot of work. I don't know, for anybody who is thinking about getting into YouTube, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, that's why nobody
Like,
continues. 'Cause
you run a business, right? Yeah. So when do you go to sleep? Doesn't change. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme by any stretch. No. Actually, it's not even a get-rich scheme. But, you know, we're enjoying it. We like helping people. So that's what I do. And I'm getting a sore back from being on my knees all the time, so. Oh, yeah, okay, sure. So we're going to wrap up the talk. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes in case you got more questions or you want to get a picture. We got pencils to give away on the back table. All right, help yourselves.